Emergency room doors exploded open. Combat boots hammered tile as soldiers burst through, wheeling in a stretcher. Blood everywhere, soaked into torn fatigues, pooling where it shouldn't. The man strapped down gasped, shallow breaths through punctured lungs. 3 chest wounds, a medic shouted. We're losing him. Nurses swarmed, numbers flew, machines beeped their warnings. Someone lifted the oxygen mask. The room went dead silent. General Marcus Bennett, the man who'd commanded Delta Force operations across 3 continents, a living legend, now dying on their floor. His hand shot out, grabbing the nearest medic's sleeve. Voice barely there. Get me your best surgeon. The doors swung open again. Dr. Amara Cross walked in, scrubs crisp, movements deliberate, dark eyes scanning the chaos with surgical precision. She didn't rush, didn't need to. Bennett's eyes went wide. Recognition hit him like a second round of bullets. That face, he knew it. Shouldn't though. She'd been declared KIA years back. Her entire medical unit wiped out in the Helmand province. Official record said none survived. Amara didn't blink. Crash cart, now. She worked fast. Syringe, compressions, rhythm like a metronome counting down to either life or death. The flatline screech suddenly broke into something beautiful. A heartbeat. Gasps rippled through the room. The chief surgeon stared. What did you just do? Amara's voice dropped low. Something I swore I'd never use again. St. Helena Trauma Center's ER was controlled chaos. White light, screaming monitors, voices colliding mid-air, blood-painted trails across pristine tile. Dr. Amara Cross moved through it all like a knife through smoke. Steady hands, braids tucked tight under her surgical cap, eyes that missed nothing. BP's crashing, a nurse called out. 40/20. He's coding again. Start compressions, Amara said, voice level. Push epinephrine, keep the rhythm clean. The stretcher slammed against the wall. That's when she really saw him. Navy uniform shredded, chest dark with blood, metal fragments still embedded. A face you'd recognize from news coverage and military history books. General Marcus Bennett, Delta Force commander, the man who didn't belong in a civilian trauma bay. Her pulse stuttered, just for a second. Not fear, recognition. She'd seen that face before. Not on television, under fire. Multiple GSWs, the paramedic barked. Lost consciousness en route. Bennett's head lolled sideways, eyes half open, unfocused. His hand reached out again, gripping. Your best surgeon, he rasped. Amara stepped forward. You've got her. The room found its rhythm, gloves snapping, instruments clicking, adrenaline humming through the air like electricity before a storm. Dr. Okonkwo, the attending, glanced over. You sure about this, Amara? He's fading. Her tone didn't waver. Then we move faster. The monitor wailed. That awful, final flat line. Time of death, Okonkwo started. Not yet. Amara's hands flew. 1 injection, chest compression, defibrillator charge. Blue light cracked across her face, static in the air. Nothing. Then, beep. Another. A rhythm returning from nowhere. The nurses froze. Okonkwo just stared. That's impossible. Amara exhaled slowly through her mask. Nothing's impossible, just untested. Hours later, the chaos thinned to whispers. Chief Surgeon's office. Door clicked shut behind her. Dr. Okonkwo stood by the window, voice sharp now. "You overstepped every protocol we have." "I saved his life," Amara replied. "You shouldn't have known how." She met his gaze, calm, firm. "You want to fire me for saving the commander of Delta Force, or thank me?" He hesitated. "I need to know where you learned that technique." Her silence was answer enough. Okonkwo frowned. "Pentagon's already calling. They said General Bennett was supposed to be overseas, classified route. Yet somehow you recognized him before his ID was confirmed." Amara's eyes narrowed. "What are you suggesting?" "That you've met him before." Something flickered behind her eyes. Smoke, sand, radio static. A night that officially never happened. She looked away. "Get some rest, doctor." She walked out before he could ask another question. ICU was quieter. The dangerous kind of quiet. General Bennett lay hooked to machines, beeps and wires keeping him tethered to this world. His chest rose, shallow but steady. Left arm bandaged, still bearing traces of desert dust. A young nurse whispered, "Is it really him?" Amara nodded once. Keep his fluids balanced. No press. No visitors. She turned toward the observation window. Through the glass, she could see his face. Calm, unflinching, even in sleep. Strange how soldiers only looked peaceful when unconscious. Then his eyelids flickered open. His gaze locked on hers through the glass. The world stopped. He didn't speak, but his lips moved. One word. "You." Amara's breath caught. Before she could move, his heart rate spiked on the monitor. Sharp, frantic. "Doctor, he's awake," the nurse said. By the time she reached his side, his eyes were open but distant, trapped between this world and another one. His voice rasped through the oxygen mask. "You were dead." Amara froze. "What?" "They said your team didn't make it out of Helmand." The name hit her like shrapnel. She looked away, voice barely audible. "They were right. Some of us didn't." He tried sitting up. Pain stopped him cold. "How are you still alive?" She straightened the IV line, forcing composure back. "Right now, sir, my only concern is keeping you that way." By morning, rumors had spread like wildfire. Reporters swarmed the gates. Soldiers guarded every door. The hospital wasn't a hospital anymore. It was a fortress. When Dr. Okonkwo caught up with her in the hallway, his expression was tight. "He's requesting you by name. Again." Amara sighed. "Then let's not keep him waiting." Inside, the room hummed under fluorescent light. Bennett turned his head as she entered. Eyes alert now. Sharp. Suspicious. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "And I don't mean this hospital." "Could say the same about you," she replied. He gave a dry laugh that turned into a cough. "Thought I buried Helmand years ago." "So did I," she said quietly. "Guess neither of us did it right." He stared at her, the kind of look that carried more questions than a dozen debriefs. "They called you the ghost." She adjusted his monitors. "They called me a lot of things." "Why didn't you report back?" I wasn't supposed to make it out. Silence settled between them. The heart monitor filled it, rhythmic, haunting. Then he whispered, "If they find out you're alive, this place becomes a target." Her tone was ice. If they already know, it already is. As she turned to leave, the lights flickered. Once, twice, air conditioning cut off. The machines changed pitch. "Backup's failing," a nurse called from outside. Amara's eyes went to the window. Two men in maintenance uniforms walking too fast, heads down, wrong body language. Her voice dropped low. "Those aren't maintenance." The door burst open. Gunfire shredded the air. Glass exploded. Amara dove behind the bed, dragging Bennett down with her. The nurse screamed. A soldier outside shouted orders, then went silent. When the shooting stopped, one intruder lay dead. The other was gone. Smoke and blood hung in the air. Amara crouched beside the fallen attacker, flipping the patch sewn into his sleeve. Her stomach went cold. Not hospital security, military, a division she'd seen before. "Operation Night Glass," she whispered. Bennett groaned weakly, lifting his head. "What did you say?" She looked up at him, eyes steady but dark. "Sir, I think someone just reopened a war we both tried to bury." The hallway lights went red. Somewhere deep below, a generator roared to life. The sirens had stopped, but the silence that followed was so much worse. Red emergency lights blared through the ICU hallway, painting everything in streaks like blood. Nurses whispered. Security radios crackled. Every few seconds, backup generators growled like distant thunder. Dr. Amara Cross stood beside General Marcus Bennett's bed. Her gloves streaked with powder burns from shattered glass. She hadn't spoken in minutes, neither had he. Bennett's breathing rasped beneath the hiss of his oxygen line. "Power's still unstable," a nurse said nervously. "Whole wings on battery." "Seal this floor," Amara said calmly. "No one in or out until I say so." The nurse hesitated. "Ma'am, that's not hospital protocol." "It's survival protocol," Amara cut in. "Follow it." Footsteps echoed down the corridor. Fast, heavy, military. The door opened. Dr. Okonkwo burst in, coat half-buttoned, face pale. "What in God's name just happened?" "Someone tried to finish the job," Amara replied. Okonkwo's eyes darted to the blood on the floor. "Finish? What job?" "The one they started in Afghanistan," she said quietly. He froze. "That doesn't make sense. You're a civilian surgeon." Amara didn't look up. "You keep believing that, and you might live longer." The hospital felt like a war zone, dressed in sterile white. Armed MPs patrolled the corridors, but every uniform looked wrong. No insignia, no unit tags. Bennett's vitals beeped steadily now, but his mind was somewhere else, eyes flicking to the corners of the room, tracking threats only he could see. "They'll come again," he murmured. Amara adjusted his IV drip. "Then we'll be ready." He looked at her. "You shouldn't be here, Cross." She met his gaze. "Neither should you." For the first time, a faint smile ghosted across his face. "You sound like the woman I knew in Helmand." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "That woman died in Helmand." He shook his head. "No, You buried her. There's a difference. The words hit harder than she expected. For a moment, she saw it again. The valley, smoke and fire, the broken convoy, blood soaking into desert sand. The night she stopped being a soldier and started pretending to be someone else. "Tell me the truth," she said finally. "Who sent those men?" Bennett exhaled slowly. "Operation Night Glass. You remember the name?" Her fingers froze mid-movement. "I remember everything about it." "Then you know it wasn't just a weapons project." She turned toward him. "You're saying it's still active?" "I'm saying it never stopped," he said. "They went underground. Private funding, black contracts. They learned how to vanish. And now they're cleaning up loose ends." Amara's jaw tightened. "Starting with you," he nodded, "and ending with anyone who knows the truth." By dawn, military trucks surrounded the hospital. The press wasn't allowed within 5 blocks, but cameras still glinted through the fog. Every window on the ICU floor was boarded or barred. When Dr. Okonkwo found Amara again, she was sitting outside Bennett's room, typing on a tablet. "You should rest," he said. "I've been resting since 2012, she murmured. "This is the first time I've actually been awake." He crouched beside her. "Pentagon's sending an extraction team. They said they'll take the general into custody within the hour." Amara's eyes didn't move from the screen. "That's not extraction. That's cleanup." Okonkwo frowned. "You sound paranoid." "Do I?" she said quietly. "Because an hour ago, 2 men posing as electricians tried to shoot my patient in the head." Okonkwo rubbed his temples. "Look, Amara, I'm trying to help you. You saved a high-ranking Delta Force commander, but now you're acting like this is some conspiracy." Her gaze lifted slowly to meet his. "What if it's not a conspiracy? What if it's payback?" He hesitated. "Payback for what?" "For surviving," she said simply. Before Okonkwo could respond, alarms blared again, not from the ICU, but from the sub-level floors. Code black. Amara and Okonkwo ran toward the elevators. Emergency lights flickered red. Halfway down the hall, 2 MPs blocked their path. "This area's restricted," one said. "I'm the attending surgeon," Amara shot back. "My patient's on that floor." "Not anymore," the guard said flatly. She froze. "What does that mean?" "Transfer order came through 10 minutes ago," he said. "Pentagon clearance. They're moving the general now." Okonkwo looked at her. "You signed off on this?" Her voice was ice. "No." Amara shoved past the guards, sprinting down the corridor. Her shoes slapped the tile, echoing through the half-dark halls. By the time she reached the ICU, the bed was empty. Bennett was gone. The heart monitor still beeped faintly from where it had been unplugged. A streak of blood marked the edge of the bed. She followed it to the door, drops trailing toward the freight elevator. A nurse stood frozen nearby, trembling. "What happened?" Amara demanded. "2 men in military gear," the nurse stammered. "They said they had orders." "What kind of orders?" "To transfer the body." Her voice sharpened. "He wasn't a body." The nurse flinched. Amara took a breath, forcing herself to calm down. "Where'd they go?" "Service elevator," the nurse whispered. "Sub-level 3." Amara turned for the hall. Okonkwo grabbed her arm. Amara, don't. You don't even know what's down there. She met his eyes. That's exactly why I have to. The elevator shuddered as it descended. She could still smell the gunpowder in her gloves, the iron tang of blood in her mask. The panel lights flickered past. Level 2, Level 1, Sub 1. When the doors opened, the world changed. The floor was colder. The walls weren't white tile anymore. They were steel, military grade. Fluorescent lights hummed faintly, casting a pale haze down an endless corridor. She walked forward, following the faint drag marks of boots and blood. The deeper she went, the louder the hum became. A low vibration in her bones. It wasn't power lines. It was machines. Rows of sealed glass doors lined the walls. Inside, she could see silhouettes, some human, some not quite. Each door had a code etched into the metal. NG12, NG13, NG14. Her breath hitched. NG. Night glass. Behind one panel, something moved. A hand, pale, steady, pressed against the glass. Her own face stared back at her. She stumbled backward, hand covering her mouth. No. The reflection tilted its head, mirroring her perfectly. Then its lips moved. Hello, Doctor. Amara froze. The sound didn't come from her. It came from a speaker above the door. The image behind the glass smiled faintly. You shouldn't have come back. Her voice was shaking now, but steady enough to whisper. What are you? I'm what you left behind, it said. And they finally found you. Before she could move, a voice echoed behind her. Calm, male, too familiar. Dr. Cross, step away from the glass. She turned slowly. Dr. Okonkwo stood at the far end of the hall, flanked by 2 soldiers. Only now, he wasn't wearing a white coat. He was wearing a black one, with the insignia of Night Glass Command stitched over the breast. Her heart stopped cold. You, he sighed. You were never supposed to see this, Amara. Her eyes burned. You used me. You used him. We had to finish what you started, he said quietly. You were the first successful prototype, the one that survived. Her world tilted. That's why I'm still alive. He nodded once. That's why we can't let you leave. The soldiers raised their weapons. Amara backed away slowly, hands lifting, in defiance, not surrender. I'm not dying in another desert, she said. He gave a sad smile. You won't. You'll just be replaced. The floor beneath her feet trembled, the sound of hydraulics engaging. Behind the glass, her double opened its eyes. The heartbeat monitor in the distance began to spike. Okonkwo stepped forward, voice echoing. Welcome back to Night Glass, Dr. Cross. The ceiling lights went red, and the glass chamber began to open. The hiss of hydraulics filled the sub-level, louder now, like something alive waking up. Dr. Amara Cross stood frozen as the glass chamber unsealed. A wave of cold air hit her face, sharp as ice. Inside, the clone, her mirror, stepped forward, eyes steady, unblinking. Behind her, Dr. Okonkwo gave a quiet nod to the soldiers. Stand down. I want her conscious. Amara's voice trembled, but not from fear. You can't control it. You think you built perfection, but you built something you'll never understand. Okonkwo tilted his head. I don't need to understand it. I just need to contain it. The clone's bare feet touched the floor. Her voice, Amara's voice, filled the corridor. Containment was never your strength, Doctor. Amara's pulse kicked hard. You talk like you've seen me before. The clone smiled faintly. Because I have. It moved closer. Same posture. Same tilt of the head. I'm everything you erased when you ran. Her throat tightened. That's impossible. Okonkwo stepped between them. She's not memory, Amara. She's data, extracted from the neural interface you left behind. Her voice cracked. You turned my mind into a weapon. No, Okonkwo said coldly. You did. We just perfected it. The alarms faded into a mechanical hum. Soldiers flanked the corridor, weapons trained on her, but waiting. The clone stood still, watching her creator with eyes that were too calm to be human. Amara took one slow step forward. You said you perfected me. Then why does she need orders to breathe? Okonkwo's lips pressed into a thin smile. Because control requires limits. Then you don't understand what you built, she said softly. He frowned. Enlighten me. Amara looked directly at her copy. Do you know what pain is? The clone's expression didn't change. Pain is a chemical response. A signal. Then you'll never understand why I survived, Amara whispered. Without warning, she grabbed the oxygen tank beside her and twisted the valve. Gas hissed into the air, sharp and fast. Get down, she shouted. She slammed the tank against the floor. Sparks flew. The soldiers dove for cover as fire flashed across the corridor. Okonkwo stumbled backward, shouting orders. When the smoke cleared, the clone stood untouched in the center of the flames, skin gleaming like wet marble. Amara's breath caught. You didn't even flinch. The clone's voice was almost gentle. They removed fear. You left it behind. Amara whispered, That's what makes me real. She ran. The sublevel twisted into a maze of hallways and locked steel doors. Amara's lungs burned as she sprinted through the smoke, emergency lights strobing red against her face. Somewhere behind her, boots echoed. Heavier, synchronized. She reached a sealed lab door and swiped her hospital ID. Denied. Another card. Still denied. Come on, she muttered. She looked up at the keypad, sparks flickering from damaged wiring. The memory came back instantly. Dusty desert labs, improvised entry codes, her voice calm over gunfire. You can't wait for permission. You make your own. Amara ripped 2 wires from the panel and crossed them. The lock snapped open. Inside, the room was darker, lined with monitors and surgical trays. And on one of the tables, a folder. Cross, Unit Alpha. Her own photo stared back at her. Next to it, a report stamped in red. Terminated. Field Kaye. Subject preserved for neuroreplication. Her hands shook. Every cell in her body screamed for denial, but the words wouldn't leave her lips. They hadn't saved her after Helmond. They'd copied her. A noise behind her made her spin. The clone stood in the doorway, smoke curling around her silhouette. "You weren't supposed to see that," it said. Amara took a step back. "Then why leave it here?" "Because you needed to remember who you are," it replied. "They couldn't make me without you. But now, they don't need you anymore." The clone raised its hand. Metal flicked open, a small blade attached to its wrist. "I was built to replace you." Amara's eyes darted to the surgical tray beside her. Scalpels, syringes, a metal tray of saline. She grabbed the tray and hurled it. It hit the lights. Sparks burst overhead. Darkness. The clone lunged. Amara rolled aside, the blade slicing through air where her neck had been. She grabbed a scalpel off the floor, turned, and slashed upward. Metal met flesh, but the clone didn't bleed. It smiled instead. "You're still human," Amara panted, backing toward the console. "You're still predictable." She reached behind her and hit the emergency lockdown. Steel shutters dropped between them, sealing the clone on the other side. "You can't hide forever," the voice echoed through the glass. Amara's voice was steady now. "I don't need forever. I just need 1 minute." She keyed open the comms channel and switched to hospital frequency. "This is Dr. Cross in sublevel 3, she said quickly. "We have a live threat. Genetic clone protocol. Night glass. Seal all exits and evacuate floors above." Static answered. Then a calm male voice. "Dr. Cross, you don't have clearance to broadcast on this channel." Her blood ran cold. It wasn't the hospital operator. It was General Bennett. "Bennett," she said. "Where are you?" His voice crackled, weaker now. "They took me. North Wing Transport Bay. I tried to stop them, but—" Gunfire cut through the line. Then silence. Amara slammed the comms unit shut. She turned toward the shutter, where the clone's faint outline still moved behind the glass. "You said they don't need me," she whispered. "Then why are they keeping him alive?" The clone's voice came back through the intercom. Quiet, but certain. "Because he's the insurance policy. The only one who can confirm which version of you survived." Her chest tightened. "They don't know which one's real." "No," said the clone, "and neither do you." The glass door behind the clone suddenly exploded inward. Soldiers stormed the corridor, shouting orders. One of them grabbed the clone's arm. "Contain the subject." The clone turned, fast, graceful, and broke his neck with one clean twist. The rest fired. Amara ran for the service lift, ducking low as bullets shattered the wall behind her. She hit the button repeatedly, whispering, "Come on, come on." The doors slid open. She threw herself inside and hit ground. As the lift began to rise, she caught one last glimpse through the glass shaft, the clone looking up at her through the smoke. Calm, untouched by chaos. Then it smiled again. The elevator shook once, twice, then stopped halfway between floors. The panel lights flickered. A single word appeared on the emergency screen. 5 letters that froze her breath mid-chest. Hello. The lift speaker crackled with her own voice. Did you really think you could outrun yourself, Doctor? Amara looked up at the mirror in the ceiling, where her own reflection smiled back, faint and flickering, as if something else were looking through her eyes. The lift began moving again, but not upward. It was going back down. The elevator plunged deeper into the sub-levels. Each floor it passed was darker, colder, like falling through the bones of something long dead. Dr. Amara Cross stood against the wall, heart pounding. The air smelled like steel and ozone. Somewhere above, alarms screamed in dying pulses. The speaker above her head hissed again. Still trying to save them, her own voice whispered. You can't even save yourself. Amara's jaw tightened. You're not me. The voice chuckled softly. No, I'm the version that doesn't hesitate. The doors opened with a mechanical groan. She stepped out into a chamber that didn't exist on any hospital blueprint. Circular, lined with glass servers glowing faint blue. The temperature dropped instantly. At the center stood General Marcus Bennett, bound to a steel chair, wrists cuffed. Dried blood streaked his uniform collar. When he saw her, his shoulders sagged with relief. I thought they had you. They tried, she said. A shape moved in the corner of the room. The clone stepped from the shadows, dressed now in a surgical coat. Her coat. You made it said softly. I was starting to think I'd overestimated you. Amara's pulse stayed steady. Let him go. The clone smiled faintly. He's not the one we're testing. Bennett's voice rasped. It's her system, the AI that runs Nightglass. It's inside their replication network. She's controlling the failsafe protocols. Amara's gaze darted to the servers surrounding them, humming low, rhythmic, like breathing. That means if I shut it down, she dies. The clone tilted her head. You mean we die? Amara stepped closer. Then tell me one thing before this ends. Why me? Why copy me? Because you wouldn't quit, it said simply. You saved lives when they told you not to. You broke rules when they ordered silence. They didn't want to erase you, Amara. They wanted to multiply you. She shook her head slowly. You think that's a compliment? The clone smiled again. It's evolution. Amara reached for the emergency release on Bennett's cuffs, but the clone was faster. In a blur, it caught her wrist mid-air. Their eyes locked. The same eyes, the same steadiness. But one was human, trembling at the edges, and the other was ice. Every choice you've made, the clone said quietly, I've already calculated the outcome. Then calculate this, Amara whispered, twisting her hand and jamming a syringe into its side. The clone stumbled, looking down at the needle. Adrenaline. No, Amara said. EMP nanite disruptor. You built it into my trauma kit. The lights flickered. The servers screamed, sparks raining from the ceiling as systems began shutting down in waves. The clone staggered forward, trying to speak, voice glitching into static. You can't. Kill yourself. Amara's breath caught, but she held firm. I'm not killing myself. I'm reclaiming what's mine. The floor trembled as backup generators tried to kick in. Bennett struggled to stand. You have to move. This place is going critical. Amara reached for him, pulling him free from the chair, but the clone caught her sleeve. Its grip like iron. You'll never escape this part of you, it hissed. You'll always be me. Amara looked down, tears mixing with soot on her face. No, I'll always be what you couldn't become. She yanked free and drove her elbow into the control console. The room exploded with light. The blast threw her and Bennett backward. Smoke, fire, and liquid nitrogen poured into the air. The servers cracked open, spilling sparks like dying stars. Somewhere in the chaos, the clone's voice echoed, distorted, broken, still trying to save everyone. Then silence. Amara crawled across the floor, reaching for Bennett. He was unconscious, blood streaking his temple. Stay with me, she whispered. You hear me? You stay with me. The ceiling groaned. A steel beam crashed beside her, scattering debris. Her arm throbbed, but she forced herself up, dragging him inch by inch toward the corridor. By the time they reached the service lift, her vision blurred. The walls burned orange behind them, collapsing in showers of sparks. She hit the up button. The lift hummed weakly, rising through the smoke. Halfway to the surface, Bennett stirred. His voice was weak but sure. You did it. Not yet, she said. Not until we're above ground. His hand brushed hers. You shouldn't have come back for me. She smiled faintly. And let a Delta Force commander die on my table twice? Not a chance. The lift doors opened into sunlight. The air hit her lungs like freedom. Paramedics rushed in, shouting, but all she could hear was the rhythmic thump of Bennett's pulse under her hand. Alive. Hours later, the hospital smoldered behind barricades. Federal agents swarmed the ruins. Dr. Amara Cross sat on the back of an ambulance, wrapped in a blanket. Her face streaked with grime and light burns. Bennett, patched and bandaged, sat beside her. They'll write about this someday, he said. She shook her head. Not the real version. He gave a half smile. Then you tell it. Her eyes drifted to the smoke rising from the crater where the lab had been. No, she said softly. Some things aren't meant to be told, just carried. He looked at her hand, trembling now that it was finally still. You sure you're okay? She exhaled slowly. I'm not supposed to be. That's how I know I'm human. A medic walked by holding a clipboard. Dr. Cross, Command wants to debrief you. They're calling it a containment success. She smiled faintly. Containment? That's one word for it. Bennett leaned closer. You're not going to disappear again, are you? Her gaze stayed on the fire-lit sky. I don't know. Maybe ghosts don't vanish. They just change uniforms. He chuckled weakly. You're one hell of a surgeon. You know that. She looked at him, tired, hollow, but alive. No, she said softly. Just a woman who refused to stop fighting. The sirens faded in the distance. The light turned gold against the wreckage. For the first time since Helmand, she let herself breathe, slow, unguarded. And then, almost too quietly to hear. She whispered toward the camera lens of a news drone hovering nearby. "If you're listening, if you made it this far," her voice cracked, "don't let stories like mine fade." She turned away, walking toward the sunrise, her shadow long against the broken concrete. Behind her, the monitor in the ambulance flickered once. Steady rhythm. If courage like this moves you, if you believe some battles are won not with weapons, but with a refusal to give up, then don't let this story end here. Share it, remember it, pass it on, because real courage doesn't vanish in fire. It survives in the people who refuse to let it be forgotten.